Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight on Our News, questions about government's planned VAT holiday. Concerns linger as the country remains in a third wave of COVID-19 cases. Plus, Disney releasing 4 rehabilitated turtles back into the ocean. Welcome to Our News, the Weekend Edition, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis is hitting out at the value-added tax holiday announced by the Prime Minister, as he says many Bahamians are struggling to make ends meet. Berthany McDermott reports.
PLP leader Philip Davis is questioning the value-added tax holiday when thousands of Bahamians are still reeling from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said the minister's administration is disconnected from ordinary Bahamians.
To offer a VAT holiday on hurricane supplies when many Bahamians today are homeless and cannot put food on their table and don't know yet where the next salary will be coming from and or where the next resource will come from to enable them to look after their family. A VAT holiday, it will only be beneficial if persons are able to take advantage of it.
Addressing Parliament on Wednesday, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced the value-added tax holiday will be introduced next month to make hurricane preparations more affordable. He added there would also be a VAT holiday on school supplies for the second straight year ahead of the next school year. However, Davis said many Bahamians can't afford to take advantage of the VAT holidays, and that's not his only concern.
What needs to happen is they need to get on the ground, understand the vulnerabilities of our people, and address those.
Last year, government introduced legislation allowing the Minister of Finance to provide VAT holidays up to 2 times per year for up to 30 days for specific reasons. When asked what he suggests be done to assist Bahamians this hurricane season, Davis said government missed the opportunity to restore and rebuild in the aftermath of previous hurricanes.
Having failed to do that, my recommendation would have been that they should have started building, for example, hurricane shelters in the family islands. They should have been ensuring that proper drainage is in the islands where the areas are prone to flooding. We're seeing no steps taken by this government to address any of those issues.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
For months, the Bahamas has been in the midst of a third wave of COVID-19 cases that shows no signs of slowing down. And with the number of reported cases reaching double digits each month, former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sand says it's a continued cause for concern.
We are still in the third wave, and certainly the numbers for the Bahamas, and I will deal with this at great length when I give my budget contribution, are still worrisome. So we continue to have to be vigilant in terms of hand washing, sanitization, mask wearing, social distancing, etc. When it comes to vaccination is not an option yet for young people. And the risk-benefit analysis for young people is very different than it is for adults. So parents have to be very, very good, and guardians about instructing their children as to how they should play and interact with others, teach them to wash their hands frequently, and for those that can wear a mask, how to wear it properly.
Officials in the Minnis administration have repeatedly said that a key factor to getting out of the pandemic is getting people vaccinated. As of May 29th, more than 55,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine has been administered in the Bahamas. The National COVID-19 Consultative Committee has said unemployed or retired individuals accounted for the majority of those vaccinated. However, it did not provide a figure. Other professionals such as bankers, engineers, educators, and clergy accounted for 7,855 of the vaccinated population. Dr. Sand says vaccine hesitancy must be addressed.
I think we have to be loving, we have to be compassionate, we have to be caring to understand the concerns. People are afraid in some instances. They have seen all types of terrible things on the internet, on social media. There are all types of stories going around about horrible events, some of which are real. And I think we have to be open, transparent, honest with people about the risks, about the benefits, about who is at high risk for vaccine adverse events, and to let everybody know that this is a very personal decision. That said, the Bahamas also has to be able to position itself to be a COVID-safe destination. And so we have a lot of work to do. We haven't done the best job of speaking with people and addressing their very, very serious concerns. And I think one of the things that we need to do moving forward is to increase our public outreach.
Well, some 3 months after test samples were sent to determine which variants of COVID-19 is in country, Health Minister Randall Wald said this week that officials still don't have those results.
We did send off 10 samples, as I said, from back in March in the House of Assembly. And to this point, I believe 5 of those samples were viable, which means that the DNA could have been extracted from the virus and it's being sequenced, though we do not have the results back as yet.
According to Wells, the Bahamas doesn't have the capacity to determine the specific variant, but can identify that there are variants. He says he's looking to upgrade the capacity to allow for genomic sequencing in country. Wells was asked when he can expect to see those results.
I'm pushing the issue with our National Reference Lab. Dr. Indira Martin has been doing a yeoman's task in the National Reference Lab. So I've been pushing the issue with her so that we can get the results back from CARFA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency in the Caribbean, so that we're able to inform the Bahamian people as to what particular variant we have. But again, I want to reiterate and state again, whichever variant it is, if you get vaccinated, the vaccine, AstraZeneca, has been proven to be effective against it.
Well, COVID-19 outbreaks can be directly linked to political campaigning, according to PAHO experts, who are warning countries in their political season to remain vigilant. Here's Georgia Bain.
During this week's press briefing, PAHO Director of Health Emergencies revealed that COVID-19 outbreaks have been related to political campaigning and voting.
As part of the previous voting processes whereby PAHO offered cooperation and together with the ministries of health to be able to identify the situation of transmission before, during, and after the electoral processes, we have observed that the surge in cases is more related to the process of the electoral campaign than to the voting day.
According to the health emergencies expert, countries run a higher risk of COVID-19 spread during campaigning rather than the actual voting day because safety measures can be put in place on the day ballots are cast.
On voting day, the measures have been applied for protection. They have been properly applied, including, for example, social distancing among individuals, hand sanitation, the use of masks. The periods of voting have also been enhanced, and also the number of voting stands. So measures have been implemented on voting days, so the transmission has been reduced.
PAHO Director Dr. Carissa Etienne also warning against political mischief of using the COVID-19 pandemic for political advancements.
By stoking controversy where there is none, our leaders are sending mixed messages to the public and are standing in the way of effective measures to control the virus. We must unite around stopping this virus, and this should be the first priority.
Reporting for our News Weekend Edition, I'm Georgie Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. Still to come, a security officer shot on the job. Plus, the financial secretary promises accountability with government spending. That's coming up when Our News Weekend returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
A security officer is in hospital tonight after being shot on the job. According to police, just after 3 this morning, the man was on duty at an establishment along Parkgate Road conducting checks when he was accosted by 3 armed men. The suspect reportedly shot the security officer in both legs before fleeing the scene. He was taken to hospital where he is listed in stable condition. Well, the new Public Financial Management Act is expected to hold government entities accountable for how money is spent, according to Acting Financial Secretary Marlon Johnson, who discussed the management of wastage in state-owned businesses. Georgia Bain has more.
The time for state-owned enterprises operating without key performance indicators will end with the passage of the new Financial Management Act in July, according to Johnson, who said all government entities will soon be held accountable for how their money is used. Johnson revealed that the measures required by the PFM will not be immediately seen, and that subsequent budget years will require ministers of the government to report on their plans, key performance indicators, and successes.
We do not have the KPIs. So what has happened? The new Performance Public Financial Management Act 2021 that comes into effect July mandates both state-owned enterprises and central government entities to report on management metrics, on KPIs, on objectives and goals. So you will see that in the new Performance Management Act 2021, a requirement for them to start doing that.
Johnson says SOEs have to move to cost recovery methods as the government cracks down on SOE expenditure as the country's debt level mounts.
This new year, they have to sort of get ready, but in the subsequent period, you will start to see that not only do they have to do those, but their ministers have to report on their KPIs and their attainment, just so that the public can start to ask what is happening with the money that they're allocating for these state-owned enterprises. Similarly, last budget you would have seen the then DPM announced that the government will start to scale back up to $100 million annualized from the state-owned enterprises, and they now have to move to a cost recovery method.
Johnson said agencies like Bahamas Air have already begun to adjust their affairs and operations in a move to balance their books. The COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc on Bahamas Air's financial position last year, costing the airline millions of dollars because of restricted travel.
And it started with Bahamas Air this past January. It was start to adjust their affairs and then start to adjust their operations in order to start to move back to some measure of balance. So certainly, state-owned enterprises have to be rationalized and they have to be made more accountable. The Public Financial Management Act will move them towards accountability, and certainly as the government sort of pulls back on its subventions, then they will have to start to be able to pay for themselves.
Reporting for our News Weekend Edition, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
After Hurricane Dorian shut down more than 90% of Grand Bahama's hotel room capacity, there was a slight uptick in January 2020. But marketing consultant Carmel Churchill says the pandemic has dealt another blow that they haven't quite recovered from.
There's no normalcy at this time. If you were to compare where we are now with 2019, we were at least 50, almost 60% better. We do have a few hotel properties that are experiencing anywhere between 25 to 30% occupancy. And that business is mainly coming from either past customers that have remained loyal to those properties, or you're now seeing some domestic tourists.
Now, though some hotels are reopening, they still struggle with occupancy, according to Churchill. She says changing travel protocols contributed to low travel numbers, but with the clean and pristine certification and the now relaxed restrictions for vaccinated travelers, they're hoping to see an uptick in travelers by this summer.
That, along with the arrival of some cruise passengers to the destination, we're looking forward to seeing our tourism, start to move, the needle move in the right direction. Of course, our focus is on overnight visitors into the destination, but I truly believe for the majority of our tourism stakeholders on Grand Bahama Island, having the cruise visitors come in is going to help them, to start that slow uptick.
In the interim, Churchill says it's the domestic tourists who are helping to sustain the industry.
I'd love to talk about or use the words of our Minister of Tourism, Mr. De Aguilar. He said the best way to support the Bahamas is to visit the Bahamas. So my appeal to all Bahamians, the best way to support Grand Bahama is to visit Grand Bahama Island. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Still to come, 4 rehabilitated turtles released back into the ocean by Disney. And later on, who gave us our quote of the week? Find out after the break.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
You're watching Our News Weekend. Welcome back. After months of specialized care at the Seas with Nemo and Friends Epcot, Disney's conservation team Wildlife released 4 rehabilitated green turtles near Disney's Vero Beach Resort early this week. Take a look. The threatened juvenile sea turtles, ranging in size from 6 to 10 pounds, were rescued near the resort this past spring and washed ashore malnourished, dehydrated, and lethargic.
Really malnourished, really low energy from a lot of activity out at sea. And Disney Conservation Team Wildlife, along with many other first responders across the state, helped to rescue these turtles that wash ashore on Florida beaches and get them to the right designated rehabilitation facilities.
The home base for Disney's sea turtle conservation efforts in Florida is at Disney's Vero Beach Resort. And now teamwork has made the rehabilitation of these little creatures possible.
Several different organizations come together across the state of Florida, including authorized zoos and aquariums, designated sea turtle rehabilitation facilities, and government agencies to make sure that these turtles are responded to when they first wash ashore malnourished on our beaches, taken to the appropriate rehabilitation facility, nursed back to health, and then re-released into the wild where they belong.
Since the start of the Sea Turtle Conservation Program in 2003, Disney has recorded more than 1 million sea turtle hatchlings in the area, and the Disney Conservation Fund has directed more than $4 million to sea turtle conservation efforts around the world.
Disney is incredibly committed to the conservation of sea turtles, and we do that in a variety of different ways. We have our field conservation program right here at Disney's Vero Beach Resort, which is close to the epicenter of nesting activity for loggerhead sea turtles all around the world, and over 90% of the sea turtle nesting in the U.S. happens here in Florida, and in particularly on beaches in Southeast Florida, right where we're located.
Who gave us our quote of the week? Find out after the break.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
We've come to that part of our newscast where we take a look back at some of the more memorable quotes of the week. Number 3 comes from this heated exchange between 2 MPs after Pinewood MP Ruben Ramming claimed Angleton MP Glenn Santa Martin took the flooding in his constituency as a joke.
You left a budget with nothing in it for Pinewood. Pinewood had a cabinet minister. Pinewood had an AG. Pinewood, under you guys, had powerful people. And all they got now is a bus driver who believe in God and have respect for leadership.
Number 2 comes from LGBTQ activist Alexis DeMarco, who shared what the local community would like to see happen as they celebrate Pride Month.
So what we would like to happen is we'd like to sensitize and continue to sensitize our fight to be included in our Constitution, to be included in our laws and policies where we have no discrimination against race, sex, gender. We want to add sexual orientation and gender identity to that there should be no discrimination. We have it in the Employment Act, and we'd like to see it in the Housing Act. We'd like to see it in the Health Act. We'd like to see it in legislation.
But our quote of the week comes from Fort Charlotte MP Mark Humes, who called on the Prime Minister to show him some respect after the FNM ratified another candidate for his seat in Parliament.
I called Drumiko Archer. I called the next member of Parliament, Drumiko Archer. I wouldn't ask for it to be stricken from the record. I would just ask for more respect for the current sitting member of Parliament until such time as I graciously decide that I'm going to move aside, if that's what I'm going to do.
Well, thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. We will see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a good Sunday evening, Bahamas.